Welcome to the Underworld. I'm eh-kaah-tee. I'm going to be conducting your orientation and job training today. What is your name? I'm not familiar with where that comes from. Is it Sicilian? Well, I don't care anyway. It doesn't pertain to the job. So, this will be your desk. This is where you will conduct all of your work. You have your computer over here, in which you will be entering any data from these scrolls that will be placed here on the corner of your desk. Now, your main objective is to enter into the database what is on these scrolls. Your second objective is to note if there is anything particularly odd about the way that these mortals have come to pass, as that is what is contained in the scrolls, is a record of a mortal's life and how they died. If it seems to be something not natural, particularly if it seems to be the act of wrath from another god, then I wish to be notified so I can investigate it thoroughly. Now, we on the floor here are sort of we're a check and balance for the gods and the mortals. Now, the mortals worship us, of course. However, if a god or goddess happens to go on the rampage and unexpectedly make some mortals or many mortals perish, then the mortals will not be very pleased with us at all. So, if there is a number of unnatural deaths or untimely deaths, then I wish to be notified so that we can stop any tantrums in their tracks. Is that clear? Do you have any questions for me so far? Now, was there any particular reason that you decided to apply to be employed here at the Underworld? So it doesn't have to do with anyone by the name of Hades or Persephone? Good. And have you heard anything about either of these particular figures? Right. Good. Well, that's wonderful to hear that you did not hear of these two particular figures on a certain tabloid magazine. I've had quite a few applicants that wish to be employed on the basis that they can get some insider info on these two particular figures. However, we will not be talking about, mentioning at all, Hades or Persephone unless it has to do with your job. Is that clear? Good. I'm not running a rumor mill here. I don't want you to get caught up in it, and neither do I want them to get caught up in it. And there is a little gossip floating around about a particular red river nymph, and I advise that you stay out of it, and there should be no mention of her as well. Well, let's take a look at your computer and we will go through what exactly I expect of you. There we are. So, let's go ahead and put in your username. Do you recall what your username and password is? Okay, let me see here. Okay, so right here, this is what your username and password is going to be. I suggest you memorize this, as you will be using it for your whole employment here. So now we're in. Keep this safe. Now, we have our scrolls over here in the corner. So I'm going to produce some of my own that I will be working on. Now, we're going to be looking here. There is the mortal's name. And then the date of birth. And the place of birth. The parents of the mortal. The date of death, the reason or cause of death, and the place of death. Those are some preliminaries, and now we get into information about the mortal. We will be particularly looking for anything that would suggest an act of wrath from a god, or any sort of intervention. For example, any wild chases through a meadow with a large goose, or any wild cavorting on the fields with a large horse. Even more so if these particular animals have a gold color to them. We will be noting that. I also like to keep a record of any gold animal sightings in any of the mortals' lives. So, let's see. This one is particularly easy. So, very boring. Nothing more than just labor, and they had a very small family and 2 dogs. That's a good little fun fact. And they died naturally and peacefully, and there is nothing of note in that particular scroll. So Now we can give a little synopsis of the mortal's life into our data. And then, if there's nothing else to know, then you can just roll these scrolls back up and put them over here to be finished with and filed away. Now, let me go through any of these other scrolls and see if there's anything of note. Let's see here. Alright. Name, date of birth, place of birth, death date, cause of death, and the place of death. Nothing particularly notable about that, except let's look a little further, and it looks like this particular mortal was slain by Ares. I don't like that. Let's look a little further. Slain in war with a neighboring country. Here we are. And it looks like Ares had slew this one to make a point. Well, if we get a particular scroll like this one, where we have a god that interfered for particularly stupid reasons, then we'll send this over to me. And what I do is I take a look at said scroll and I start writing out the details. And then afterwards, I get to go pay a visit to Ares. Now, the first offense from a god's act of wrath, or this particular one, stupidity, then the first strike, one would get a strongly worded letter advising them to quell their temper in less destructive ways. The second strike, I send a second strongly worded letter advising them of their first strike, as well as another insistence that they find a healthier coping mechanism for their ungodly egos. And on the third strike, in which Ares has enacted, then I get to visit them personally, which I don't particularly like to do. Here we are. But I have read this same scenario 4 different times today. And that seems to me like quite excessive. And almost done. Alright, now I'll have to check my calendar here. Let's see. I've got to block out that meeting for Hades. And then after that, wonderful. Looks like I'm meeting him at 3 o'clock today. We're going to have a little heart-to-heart. Now, let me go ahead and fill in the rest of this scroll. So, does that seem quite clear to you, or were you having any questions about anything that we've just talked about? No, there are some certain landmarks that I look for when I'm looking for gods enacting their wrath. And particularly, well, I have a list. The ones I look for the most are, of course, Zeus, and then Ares. Hades and Poseidon seem to be getting better these centuries, and Aphrodite and Eros tend to go hand in hand, and very, very occasionally Hera comes along my field, but obviously any odd animals larger than usual or very friendly domesticated animals that wouldn't usually be, bulls for example, that have an unnatural coloration, somewhat like what god they're represented by. Red for Ares, blue for Hades, gold for Zeus, more of a tealish color for Poseidon. And if I see any of those particular marks, then that already alerts me that perhaps a mortal's death was by unnatural causes. And then there's also the circumstantial evidence of if there was any sort of event like an unnatural volcano eruption, an unnatural earthquake, an unnatural flood that's happened recently and in the same area that this mortal had resided or died in, then that would also be something that you could send to me, so then I can compile a list of how many mortals perished because of a god's actions. As I said before, we are the checks and balances between the gods and the mortals. And if you so happen to let anything slide and don't look closely enough, then we can have a very hard time pinpointing any acts of wrath that could upset the mortals and upset the balance of the gods. So it is very, very important that you work very carefully and diligently. I have a stack of these scrolls, and you are to go through them one by one and enter all the data that is listed in our entry form and make sure there aren't any odd causes of death, as we've discussed previously. And if not, then the scroll can just go into the completed file, and then we will file them away, and there won't be anything more to that. But remember, if there are any unnatural causes of death, to just put it, let's put it right over here, and then I will pick that up when I come by and take a look. If you're not sure, you can always put it in that file. I would much rather have nothing occur than to accidentally have a suspicious file land in the completed area without being checked by me. Is that clear? just have a few final notes on this screen, and then I will hand your computer to you, and we will see how you do. Wonderful. Now I'm going to go ahead and turn that to you. And let's start with this scroll here. So I want you to just look through that. Go ahead and look through the biography of the mortal and see if you note anything particularly odd. Good. Good. Nothing out of the ordinary. Let's go ahead and put that to the side and then take a look at that scroll. Good. Good. Okay. And now let's take a look at this one. Very good. Yes, this one looks a little out of place, and it seems that this unfortunate soul got trampled by a very large domesticated gold bull. So, I will take this scroll and investigate further, and I suppose that after Aries, I will have to pay Zeus also a visit. Yay me. Right. I think you are all set to go. Is there any other questions that you have for me before I let you complete the task that I've given you? Good. I'm glad that we understand each other. Yes. Well, I will leave you to your work. I have the most faith in you. And remember, if you screw up, it's a very big disaster. No pressure, though. Goodbye now, and good luck. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this video. Please like this video if you want to. Comment if you'd like to. Subscribe if you want to see more from me. And if you want to catch me on some socials, my Twitter is @eh-kaah-tee with no S. My Instagram is @xx_kaah-tee. I'd like to give a special thank you to my patrons on Patreon, for whom this wouldn't be possible, as well as the support